Hello everyone, and welcome to Stitch Trek, a show where we talk about Star Trek costumes, we make them, we review them, and today, this is my newest episode about my voyage upon the Star Trek cruise. You may be wondering why it's been taking me so darn long to get these episodes out. And it's because I can't breathe. Over the past 2 years, but definitely much more recently, it's becoming progressively harder for me to breathe through my nose. It's always something, isn't it? Always. But I have to go see a specialist. And the wait to see a specialist has been a long time. Or at least it feels like a long time. It always feels like a long time when you can't breathe correctly, right? I've been trying to record this for a while now, but as you may know, it's a little difficult to talk when you can't breathe through your nose. It's surprising how much you need that. And I'm just not a natural mouth breather. I will, without thinking, close my mouth and then find myself hyperventilating. So it's not been fun. And today, I feel a little better than usual, so here I am recording this episode. I meant to put on like a full costume like I did with my last one, but frankly, I don't have the energy. It's amazingly draining not to be able to breathe normally, or just breathe without thinking about it. Still going to work like usual. Piper's still doing remarkably well. She did have some teeth pulled though. She's an old lady, what do you expect? With all of that being said, I would like to talk about Day 5 of the Star Trek cruise. You may notice that I skipped Day 4. It was a wonderful day. We just exited the ship and walked around the island of Curaçao on our own. We didn't actually pay for any excursions or anything like that. The problem with making a costume-oriented episode about this day is that I reused my Romulan commander outfit, which you have seen before. So if you want to see the outfit I wore for the party that evening, that is here. Otherwise, this is some footage from the day, just walking about.
I want you two to meet each other. Your brothers. Wesley, this is Jack. Jack, this is Wesley. Come on.
It was beautiful. Just a great, great place. We boarded the ship after, we just hung out by the pool. We were drained. We had been staying up way too late every night on this cruise. We had tried to be very adult in the past, going to bed at a reasonable hour, knowing there was a lot to do the next day, but this time we just kind of like forgot about it. Let loose. And dang, did we pay for it. In fact, I think you can see in today's episode the lines under my eyes from not having slept in what felt like so long. Another thing, this day I decided to wear a Klingon costume because I knew that the Klingon rave, normally hosted by Kenneth Mitchell, would be that evening. Mary Chifo and her partner, whose name escapes me at the moment, made a short film, and they premiered it that morning. So we got up bright and early to run to the venue to watch this film. And Mary got up in front of us all and told us that Kenneth Mitchell had passed away. And coming from her personally, not just reading it like you find out normal things on the internet news or whatever, it was real, because she and he, having acted together, having him play roles that were so close to her characters, were real life good friends. And man, it was a heartbreaking moment. But also, I couldn't imagine being anywhere better to hear that news than on a ship full of people that loved him. But we were, and I don't just mean Deanna and I, we were all hell-bent on still having a great time. He loved the Star Trek cruise. He came back again and again and was the most open and wonderful person when it came to having people greet him or approach him, or he would greet people that were wearing costumes he loved. It was just so wonderful having him there. So in his memory, darn it, it was going to be a great day. Now onto the costume. This is a bits and pieces costume, and by that I mean this is a costume I put together from things I found. The brow ridges you can see me making in a previous episode about the cruise. They are not new, but the costume itself is. So, here we go. My Klingon costume for the Star Trek Cruise 2024.
Let's get started by making a batlith. This is foam I got from the inside of a television box, and this is silver fabric I found online. I cut the shape of a batlith, and then cut out the handholds. If you'll remember, I made one of these before in pink. This is the same technique I used then. I turned the fabric wrong way out. And then traced the batlith. Then I cut it out, leaving a little bit for seam allowance. You'll notice I only put lines to indicate the handhold sections. That's because I will only cut a slit there. That way there's enough fabric to push inside and sew around the inside of those circles. Now I'm going to sew together the two sides of fabric, but only doing the intricate edge, leaving the easy edge open. Once the foam is snugly inside, I can fold along the top and hand sew that edge. Then, pierce the handholds and hand sew the fabric around that as well. This costume is mostly pieced together from items I found at thrift stores and fabric I had around the house. I'm layering a frilly top, a short leather skirt, a long leather skirt first, then putting a corset I bought for $4 online, used on ThreadUp. I'm using leftover fur fabric from my Salt Vampire costume episode for some of the accent pieces. And trim around these faux leather cuffs that I also found used online. My cousin-in-law 3D printed me this Klingon belt buckle. The belt is leftover leather fabric, along with pieces of that faux leather cuff that were a little too big for me. I've added another strip of faux fur on the back. I feel like being a good Klingon is all about having lots of great details to add interest to the costume. And these are the boots. You might recognize them from my Star Trek The Original Series women's uniform. They're one of my favorite pairs. To cut down on the footwear I have to pack for this cruise, I'm going to give these double duty by adding a fur cuff that is removable. I want to add more interest to the sleeve area by adding a fringe. It looks better, but it's still not quite enough. Aha! I've added strips of lace fabric from an old shirt underneath. I've decided to put 2 lace skirts underneath and slice one into ribbons to give it more movement when I walk. Here we are on the cruise ship, and who's that peeking around the corner? Some of the wonderful decor. I absolutely love the extent they go to make it feel so Star Trek-y. This is when we disembarked on Aruba and got on the bus to drive to our excursions for the day. A tour around caves and sights of the island. The first thing we did was befriend a cat, which of course Sienna was absolutely thrilled to do, before climbing a large pile of rocks that serve as a vista from which you can view much of the island. It was absolutely beautiful up there. The landscape there is very arid and full of desert plants. I went to look, our ship in the distance. They brought us to some caves that had been converted into an outdoor church of sorts. Then, we climbed into one of the bigger caves. It was stunning. I've been in a cave before, but not like this. The light shafts coming in from above, and the interesting rock features were beautiful. There were many native paintings on the ceilings, and graffiti from later explorers. 1818. 1848. 1843? 1830. And of course, like many islands in the region, wild goats abound. The sea there is a beautiful blue. And there were fossils all over the rock face, and small dried pools of salt that looked like crystals. Back on the ship, and as usual, it's a Star Trek cruise, so there's hardly anyone in the casino. Splurging for the balcony has got to be one of the best things we've been doing, even though the cost is silly. It is so nice to sit out there and enjoy the breeze and the view, including wondering about what these guys were doing. This was our next show of the evening. They had to guess what they were through the reactions of the audience, and by only asking yes or no questions. This is another trick I discovered. The walls are metal, so magnets stick. If you bring some powerful magnets, you can use them to decorate your room. This glue is probably the best recent discovery I've had. It is amazing at putting on any sort of facial prosthetics and having them really stick. It's an eyelash glue and dries clear. The one thing I do not recommend it for, though, is ears. The Vulcan ears, at least the caps that I use, have to slide into place and then dry. This stuff dries so quickly that there's no maneuvering or wiggling it around. It will stick to the first thing it touches. So for that, I still recommend the old brand of eyelash glue I use. Deanne is doing the ears right now. This is when I got the idea to give myself a little scar. I had purchased a dead eye contact lens, kind of grayed out and sickly looking, but I forgot to pack it. Now the corset, and here I am. Time to help with Deanna's hair. I think it came out really well, and she looks so good as a Romulan. Here I am in my Klingon. I love how this pulled together. We're off to a pre-party party. Some sights around the ship. It was a windy evening. Then we listened to some comedy. And now the rave. Deanna looking sophisticated. There were touching moments during the rave. It had been really hard to keep our spirits up all day, having found out about the death of Kenneth Mitchell. And he used to host this rave. If you watch some of my earlier videos about my trips upon the Star Trek cruise, you can see footage of him hosting this same party. This was his deal, and this evening it would go on without him in the world. It was a night of dancing our feelings out. And after the party, I pulled off my sweaty forehead ridges and admired the lines of makeup on my face.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope to have another episode out relatively soon. I have a doctor's appointment in 3.5 weeks. Hopefully soon after that it'll be taken care of and I can breathe clearly again. It would be so wonderful. Yeah. And I really miss this. I miss this. I miss you guys. I miss us all hanging out and talking about costumes. So until next time, everybody, live long and prosper. Kapla! And